Hello, people. I'm Lee Cole, free, and I'm here with my partner and friend, James Proctor. James, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing really well. How about you?
A lot of exciting news, especially you and I are very excited too. And
Yeah.
so we're going to put out some good stuff today. And there's people all over these stories right now. And the two main stories would be the Gambino arrest, and also Murder Machine. To explain to us about Center, and explain
hmm
to us about Testa and who's being released first and what's going on in that. Why don't you let us know? But before you do that, here's a
Yep.
short we put up on this. James made this short. I'm gonna put it up, and then we're gonna talk about it.
Yep.
We have more details about the Anthony Center parole and what it means for Joey Testa. Both men were convicted when the parole laws were different in pre-1987. Center and Testa have both served 35 years, and Center was granted release in a special consideration hearing last year. His release date is June 22, 2024, but he'll probably be released to a halfway house in the next few months. Joey Testa is going through this process currently and will most likely get his release based upon the Bureau of Prisons not having an issue with Testa's parole. As more information comes out, we'll provide it on the Lee Code 3 podcast.
And it's the Lee Call 3 James Proctor podcast, James.
Yeah, that's
Okay, remember
true.
that. I mean, with
Yeah.
all the work you put in here, make sure you put your name on that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say that too. They say you will be nothing without James.
No.
So I rather, I like when they say that because you're being complimented.
Thank
So this is really James. This morning you made a phone call too. Explain to us who you called and who you talked to.
Yeah, so I talked to Anthony Center's attorney. That's Linda Sheffield. And so she lives down the street from me and operates out of Marietta, Georgia. But anyway, she's the one that took the case on Anthony Center. She was successful in getting him a release. And so I just gave her a call just to, first of all, I wanted to see if she would come on. And she's not, she doesn't do the podcast or come on. It's a pretty sensitive situation, she said, with this, which I understand. But at the same time, also confirmed what she said with Jerry Capisi and Gangland News. And then other sources have told me that, we know Anthony Center's getting out next year, that Joey Testa is also going through that same process, and that the Bureau of Prisons will not object to his getting out. So that's looks like it's going to happen as well pretty soon.
So was a nice lady, and how did you feel? Did you feel comfortable talking to her? Did she sound like a lawyer? How did she sound?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a lawyer. She, I have her direct number. She answered, was nice to me. She, has been involved. She's one of the few lawyers that understands those federal laws, of the pre-1987 sentencing, because after 87, what happens in these federal cases are that there's no parole. And so even though Joey Testa and Anthony Center got life bids, because of when they got convicted, they actually had that eligibility for parole. And so you just have to go through the process. So it's worked with Anthony Center. Just to want to tell everyone that she is not Joey Testa's attorney. I'm not sure exactly who that is, but she's Anthony Center's attorney.
And who is this right here?
Yeah, so that's Joey Testa. He's at Terminal Island FCI in California. It's a minimum security prison, and so he's there with his family. So he's been spending the last few years, having his family visit him. They allow physical contact there. Anthony Center, on the other hand, is at USP Cannon, which is a maximum security, or at least a high level security prison.
Well, so he's a high level, but he's about to be released, right?
Yes, he is. He just went through the process sooner than Joey Testa. Joey Testa, my understanding, that process has started, but it's not as far along as Anthony Center.
And these guys they were called the Gemini twins, and they were very close to Roy DeMeo. And a matter of fact, they're the ones that killed him and they put a chandelier in his body, and they found him in the trunk.
Yep.
The good thing is that, well, and at least they didn't make his body disappear, because DeMeo, who they say killed 200 men, this guy right here, are ordered to death altogether of 200 people.
Yep.
Killed a lot of innocent people that came looking for their families at the Gemini.
Yes.
And there was a book called The Murder Machine, and by Jerry Capisci, one of the best mob books I ever read, if not the best.
Exactly.
And it talks to you about the brutality of that family, and exactly what Joey Testa was involved in, Anthony Center. What would you say to the people that say these guys killed a lot of people? Why are they getting out?
Yeah. So, part of it is that it's just a process. So, it's just a process where he got convicted before 1987. What we know about both of them is, according to the Bureau of Prisons, they've adapted well to prison. They believe, meaning the Bureau of Prisons, that they have changed their lives, that, they're not involved in that life. They're not having intention in going back into that life, and that, they look at as Roy DeMeo was their crew leader. They were following orders. That doesn't make any excuse, but also, they're the two that actually stopped Roy DeMeo by taking him out. Frank DeChico went to these twins and said, "Hey, you need to take out Roy DeMeo, or we're taking you guys out." And they did it, and then they went to the Lucchese family.
And Paul Castellano wanted them dead because the legal issues started to rise, and they were afraid that if he got arrested, that he might break. And no one knows whether he was break. Personally, I think that was just an excuse of getting rid of a psychopathic killer. But there were people that refused the contract because he had so much tight security around him, and so they didn't want any part of it.
Nope.
So you're talking about this is the crew right here. This was probably one of the most vicious crews ever. Would you say that, James?
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, they were going after people not involved in the life. You talk about Murder Incorporated, back in the 40s, 30s, and 40s, most of those people, there were exceptions. Most of those people were involved in the life. These guys, they would, part of what Roy DeMeo wanted them to do is they wanted them to keep basically sharpen their skills. And so they'd have some drunk that was causing problems at the Gemini Lounge. They'd smile at him, be cool to him. They'd let everybody leave, be the end of the night, and they would get the guy and take him to the apartment or take him downstairs. They would take care of people.
I heard one story where they killed a guy that was an associate. Then the guy's father and son came looking for him, who were not in the life. He invited them in and killed them, and the whole family disappeared.
Yeah,
so this is the level of between all, and they were all involved. There's no doubt about that. And Nino Gaggi, this is a prison picture of him, but Nino Gaggi was the boss of the crew, and they answered to him. But he knew what they were doing. They were just brutal killers. And people will say, okay, so you got these brutal killers, they're about to be released into society. But no one's here to judge these guys. How much time have they done so far?
Yeah, both of them have done 35 years. So
35 years. Imagine they went into prison before the John Gotti era really began.
Exactly.
In the middle of it.
In the middle
so Gotti came into power in 85 and 86, and then they went to prison in 87, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they did. And so they went to the Lucchese family. They weren't really too involved with the Gambinos by that time, because part of it was that Gas Pipe wanted them. Gas Pipe was a nut himself, and so he wanted the Gemini twins. But there was, Gotti, the Gambinos, they weren't going to make these Gemini twins, and so they just wanted to wipe their hands of these guys, and so basically dismantled the crew and sent them to the Lucchese's.
So I'm sure that when these guys were taken off the street, Gotti wasn't too sad about it, because he understood where they came from.
Yeah, exactly. And, the Westies, that was, the Westies is what Roy DeMeo had. So that, we know that was the Irish gang. They did a lot of work for the Gambinos. But, after after Roy DeMeo left, Joe Watts was able to have that relationship with the Westies, and pretty soon the Westies kind of employed themselves, but there wasn't really
But the
any
death-
issue.
And the death of DeMeo really changed the way they were doing business. Would you say the Gambino family? They took out this very powerful man that people feared. And then they detest the twins. The Gambinos didn't really want them. But the Gambinos at the same time knew that they owed him because they killed DeMeo.
Right, because they were going to, if they didn't do it, Frank DeCicco told them that, they were going to be taken out. Remember, they were associates at the time that they did this, and so they didn't have much power. And so if they didn't do this, then they were going to be gone as well. So they took care of Roy DeMeo, and, that's kind of what happened.
And this is just fascinating stuff. Let's hope that these guys get out. They got family, and they're going to be out released to society. I don't see them doing anything. But this is a rarity. Usually guys that get sentences like this never be released, because you got guys in prison that have done a lot less, and they can't even get compassionate release, and they're dying.
Yeah, can I mention? Yeah. No, I was going to mention something about the laws.
I think they were lucky. I think they were lucky, though, James, because it's like you said, they were sentenced in that guideline in the 80s.
Yes.
These other guys, like Asaro and stuff, it was the 90s. So it was it changed quite a bit.
Yeah, and that was the point I was going to make, is that you have Vic Amuso, you have these guys that there's no way, they're in their 80s. You got guys in their 90s. There's no way they're going to continue any crimes or criminal behavior. And then, and based on technicality, right? So the laws were different when the Gemini twins were put away, and so they're only 68. They're still young.
They're a couple years older than me.
I mean, they could do something if they wanted to. 68, you have a lot of mobsters in their 70s that still are on the street. So I don't think they'll do it.
Well, they're going to do to them what they do to Gene Gotti. They're going to make it impossible for them to do anything, because they're going to give them. They're probably going to have to show up at the parole board for the rest of their life.
Lifetime parole.
Yes, and that's what happened with Gene too. And they make sure that these guys. This is why I don't see any issues with them releasing them. But let's not make them into saints, people. There were innocent people murdered here, and they were at those murders, and they helped dispose of the bodies. So. But that's on them, and that they have a good lawyer, Linda Sheffield. It seems like she did a great job, and let's see if his partner has a lawyer that well. Before we finish off this story, is there anything else you like to say about this story? Because we're going to jump onto another one.
No, that's just, to me, the only thing I wanted to mention, that I totally believe we need some sort of prison reform for the people that have been convicted post 1987, because it just doesn't make sense to have people in their 90s that are dying, and they just let them die in prison. It's just a technicality, and so that's just the way it is. We'll see what happens.
Well, here's the irony of it all. Borelli, another guy that was part of that family, he had 2 murders, and they got tossed out, and he's not going to get out, and he's doing life for car theft.
Yeah,
I mean, he was convicted of 15 car theft counts.
Yeah,
and he served 38 years, has little chance of winning his release from federal prison.
He's not going to get it.
And he's 75, and he was sentenced to 150 years. So think about that. Here's this guy that has his murder convictions thrown out, and it's for theft and racketeering, most likely. It was included in that, and he's not scheduled to be released until 2083.
You know why? Here's the reason, and this is what's crazy about it. He would have been better off getting a sentence of life in prison. He got a sentence of 150 years, and so because of that, and based on the laws at the time, he has to spend 2/3 of his sentence in prison, which means he has to stay in 100 years. But on a life bid, you're eligible for parole, based on those guidelines, something like after 30, 25, 30, 35 years. So the thing is, it's better to get a life sentence back then
Sure.
than it was to
And
get
not only
150
not
years.
Great point, James. Not only did they do the life sentence, they were also sentenced to an extra 20 years. So they did their life sentence plus the 20 years. So they did 15 years, 18 years on the murder charge, or whatever charges they had, and then 20 years that was added on. They did that. So that's where this all comes into the 35 years.
Yeah.
You're right. Can you imagine that their sentence was brutal like that? But this Borelli guy is going to be in prison for the rest of his life. He's not going to get out. And he wasn't nearly. He was called a hitman, but the reality is they threw out the 2 murder convictions on him. And I guess the feds are like that. They get mad if you beat them.
Yeah. Yeah, they love technicality. So they said, okay, yeah, definitely, we'll give you the 150. We'll drop the murder charge, but we're going to give you 150 years. There's no way you'll get out. But then, Testa and Sinners, they're able to get out because of the guidelines. Just very interesting to me, and it just shows the flaws in the system.
So if I get sentenced, if I'm a young guy, I'm going to go, hey, Your Honor, give me life plus 20, please.
Yeah.
Life plus 20. Don't give me separate charges for being part of the car theft ring. But that's how the feds are. If you beat them, and the judges, they will do everything they can to keep. And how many guys are in prison that you talk about Ronnie One Arm and people like that have beaten murder charges. Bezonia, but he got out. But these guys have beaten murder charges, and they went to prison for racketeering or conspiracy to murder.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get out. It's hard to beat the feds.
Yeah, it is.
Almost impossible.
And you know what's the last point I wanted to make on that? There's there's like 150,000 inmates in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and there's only 39 prisoners that qualify in the pre-1987 sentencing. And so Joey Testa and Anthony Sinner fall into that. Even Borelli falls into that. So only 39 out of 150,000 prisoners are actually eligible under the pre-1987 sentencing guidelines.
But I guess the Borelli's issue is that he got charged with car theft.
Yeah, 150 years. So, and the thing is, you got to do 2/3 of your sentence. So he has to do at least 100 years.
Well, there's no way that he's going to get out based on his lawyers going in there arguing. It sounds like it's not going to happen.
Not going to happen for him.
And you had Chris Rosenberg in this group, and he was a brutal killer.
Yeah.
And was involved with that murder, along with DeMeo. They murdered him because he robbed some Colombians, and they were given, I believe it was Colombians. I might be wrong. Or Cubans,
yeah, I think it was Colombians, actually. Yeah.
And he murdered them, and the Colombians said, we're going to come and we're going to start a war in the streets. But so that Roy DeMeo did not want to murder Chris Rosenberg, but they did. And they were part of that murder. So, it's really interesting stuff. And how this whole sentencing thing. We're going to get to another story.
Yep.
And we broke this on here yesterday before anybody. That's the reality of it, people. And we weren't going to really touch on this too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the video that was put out yesterday on this. Okay. And then we're going to talk about it a little bit. And we're going to tell you there's a rat in this case, and it's leaning toward one person. And we're going to put that person up. We might be wrong, but this guy's a dirtbag, so we'll put him up anyway. But if we had to guess, let's. Hello, people. I'm just coming. I'm going to play this for you. This is some news about some bodies being searched for in the Goshen area in New York. It has to do with the Gambino bust of last week. I'll play this, and then I'll discuss it a little bit. I'm not going to stay on here too long. I just want you guys to see the story. People in New York may know about it, but people outside of New York may not have seen this because this is from the New York Channel. Here we go.
Breaking news for you now, and a story that we've been following all day. Sources tell us an investigation into the Gambino crime family has led to an FBI search of 2 Orange County horse farms. Our Blaze Gomez joins us from Goshen with more on these breaking developments. Blaze, what are you learning tonight?
Well, there's still a lot of activity here. I'm not sure if you could see it this late at night, but there's still a lot of law enforcement here. What we do know right now is that there was a huge roundup, federal roundup of several alleged mobsters in the city last week, and those arrests may have led them here to 2 horse farms.
Okay, so just remember, the word is may have led them there, but just so you know, last week they arrested a bunch of Gambinos, like 10 of them, with other people from the Sicilian faction. And so it's obvious that some of these guys that have been arrested are already starting to snitch. And now they're snitching about bodies. So people, the ones that say the mafia is dead, they're still burying bodies.
Orange County. FBI and NYPD were spotted by Chopper 12 Wednesday, bringing in an excavator at this horse farm at 51 Hampton Road in Goshen. A high-ranking law enforcement official tells us their probe is part of an investigation into the Gambino crime family. Neighbors, including this retired NYPD detective, say they're not surprised.
You could put whatever you want. It's a bunch of acres.
The property has several barns on 25 acres and is owned by an LLC linked to this house on West Islip, Long Island. News 12 went there.
Take a walk.
And a man who answered the door closed it in our face. That same address has ties to the owner of a second farm at 117 Hamptonburg Road in Campbell Hall, where FBI were seen by neighbors Tuesday with shovels.
They had several dogs throughout the day, traipsing all over the fields, sniffing for something, and then later in the day they had shovels. It seemed to me, I think they might have been digging inside the barns.
Both addresses have ties to Giovanni Di Lorenzo, according to county property records. Just last week, the feds announced the arrest of 10 suspected Gambino mafioso, including a Salvatore Di Lorenzo, who's out on bail. Now, right now, we don't know what authorities are looking for or if they've found anything. Interestingly, though, to note, both of these farms had fires in recent years, with one here deemed suspicious at the time. That's the latest in Goshen. Blaze Gomez, News 12.
Okay, people, I wanted you to see that. So this is going to get interesting to watch now, because you always hear the mob is dead. They don't kill people no more. But it's obvious if they find bodies, something's going on. This Di Lorenzo guy, you've heard, Panisi has talked about this guy before, John Panisi, which is kind of interesting. But the fact of the matter that this is going on right now is even more interesting, because it just goes to show, when it comes to money, people, and it comes to crimes and stuff, you know, people around drugs get killed all the time. And if this is has to do with drugs or other stuff, who knows what it has to do with yet? But when they bring the indictments down, so it's obvious they arrested these 10 guys. They bring them in, and they go for the weakest links. Or maybe the guy that is looking at the biggest sentence is the one that has flipped. Just very interesting stuff. We'll give you more information on it. I just wanted you to see that. So that whole Gambino thing, the bust from last week, is now expanding. Everybody, please hit the like. I really appreciate it if you hit the like. And I just wanted to get this out to you. I was going to do it in a minute video, but I cannot do it in a minute video. And just so you know, we are doing a live show on Friday at 7 o'clock. It's going to be a live, and we're going to have a special guest, and it's going to be a mob show. Our live yesterday, we were very surprised by how many people came to it and how many people watched it, how enthused people were. And we're starting to think that maybe it's time to get back to the live shows a little more often. So we will be doing a live Friday. We were going to do a live tonight on the wrestling channel, but we're going to do that tomorrow. So tomorrow is going to be the wrestling channel. All the links will be below this video. And the following day, it will be 7 o'clock on the mob channel. But everybody take care. I hope you enjoyed this information. And like I said, there's going to be a lot of stuff pouring out now. This is just basic stuff that I'm getting out. Take care. I couldn't get that off the screen. I wanted to end it earlier. And you thought I was still up there. I was like, damn, I can't get this off the screen. I took your picture off. I took my picture off. And I'm like, damn it. I said, let it run out.
Yeah.
So what do you so what do you find interesting about that story, James?
Well, so a couple of things is so I guess Orange County, where all this is, it's about 65 miles north of New York City,
Yes,
right?
Ulster County, Orange County. I'm very familiar with it. I've been up there a lot of times. I used to actually date a girl from Goshen, and this was when I was like a kid.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had family that live up in the Port Jervis area, and so they're like right near that area also.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting to me is how they've, you look at the mob and how they have historically did burning down, arson to get insurance. So it sounds like that at least in one of, both farms had fires previously, and that at least one of them is suspicious. And then it sounds like that I was reading where a restaurant itself they were extorting or whatever, they threatened to burn it down. So it just sounds like these guys are definitely pretty brutal. And it's this stuff from sounds like a lot of this stuff was happening this year. It's not just looking at 30, 40 years ago. This is stuff that's happening now.
And they didn't realize they're in a different decade doing this crap. It ain't going to go that far.
Right.
It's obvious that there was some people not too bright in this.
Mm-hmm.
And let's talk. So explain to me about this Vinny guy.
Yeah, I mean, Vinny Slick is his name. And so apparently he's an associate. He's 36 years old. He apparently had kept this guy named Lonnie. It's Joey Lonnie. I guess this guy was wanting to set the Roxy Bar and Grill on fire in a place called Tom's River. And so he apparently had kept him from doing that. But this guy, my understanding is
James, isn't it weird though that this guy, they put out the story that this guy tried to stop them. This guy comes from money. They came up with the $1 million bail for his release.
Yeah, exactly.
And I had people say to me, if anybody's going to flip, and we don't know whether this is the guy, but he was never a tough kid.
No.
And they were all facing 20 to 180 years. I mean, you're talking about bigger sentences and real big sentences and stuff. So this guy is a key player in this because he was at the gas station when the other guy was filling the tank up.
Right.
So, and then then he returns it to get his money back. I mean, weird stuff.
Yeah.
But like Jeff Nadeau said, there's cameras everywhere. Why would you do something this stupid? There's cameras everywhere. You can be out in the woods hunting a deer in the middle of the woods, and they'll give you a camera one.
Well, exactly. And this guy was in the restaurant, actually punched a wall. He damaged one of the paintings there. And the dude would go around and tell people, hey, I'm a Gambino. Talking about this Vinny Slick guy. I mean, he's not a bright guy. He's one of those that came from money. Rich wannabe mob guy is what he was or is.
Yeah. Well, who punched the wall? Was it him or the other guy that punched the wall?
No, they said that Vinny Slick, after they're being escorted out, Vinny Slick damaged a painting and punched a wall. And this other guy, Joe Brooklyn, referred to himself as a Gambino, told the owner, the prosecutors wrote, that he would burn this place down with you in it.
What idiots.
Yeah.
This is modern days. If you own a business and somebody comes to you and they act like mobsters, they say that crap, the first thing to do, you're going to worry about your business. You're going to call the law, and the law's going to jump all over it.
Yeah.
This ain't like the 80s or the early 90s. They're on cameras everywhere. These guys are going to probably most likely be convicted based on what they are doing on cameras and where they were.
Well, yeah, you have 8 people or 7 or 8 people. Well, 12 people involved. And so the thing is that also, you remember there's the phrase where it says that to keep a secret, if you have 3 people, you got to kill 2 people. And so the point is that there's going to be a weak link in this, especially in this day. There's going to be someone that's going to
probably more than one weak link, because you're looking 20 to 180 years. Those links are going, these are guys that want to play tough guy on the street,
Yeah.
Now they're in prison. They're not interested in playing. And these guys already know that the feds love rats. They love to get people. So for all you know, it could be the boss that turns on the people underneath him.
Yeah,
but
could be.
then you got this Vinny Slick guy who comes up with $1 million bail. The information gets out that he told him don't do it.
Yeah, he's the
so
hero.
It's obvious. Yeah, So already it's like they're trying to set this guy up for not being the real bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see. And James, please subscribe, hit the like, and the reminder bell. Mm-hmm. And basically, if you want to donate to the show, you're more than welcome to do so. It's like I said before, too, we're going to be doing a live on Friday night.
Yes.
And then Angel Gotti and you and me and Marla, we're going to be doing a great interview for Patreon.
Oh, it's going to be great.
And we're going to release it on Patreon at night at 6 o'clock Saturday night, just so people know. And we're really looking forward to that. We're going to hold back on who we're interviewing, but we'll release that in a day or so.
Yep.
So anything else you'd like to say before, well, just so people know, please join Angel Gotti's My Father's Daughter's Patreon. The link will be below this also. And also we have 2 websites. One is realmobcontent.com and the other one is the Gravano crimefamily.com. And we're going to be putting stuff on that. But most of all, also, we also have a wrestling channel. We are some busy people. And that is called At Wrestling with the Devil. And that is another channel that we're going to be doing live with maybe today, tomorrow. We're not sure yet. But, most likely today's Thursday. We may do it tonight. If we don't do it tonight, we'll definitely be doing it Saturday. Tomorrow, we're going to have a live mob show at 7 o'clock. Okay. Anything you'd like to say before we leave, James?
No, it's just really just a lot of interesting things going on in this genre. And so people have thought that the mob was dead. They must not be seeing what we're seeing.
It's just that the gangsters are a lot stupider now.
Yeah.
They don't realize everything you do, you could be on the phone. It's a lot easier. The feds control everything now. The feds can get, it used to be a lot more difficult to get a search warrant now. Now it's no problem. Now it's like, okay, you hand it to the judge signs it. You know, and because the feds are that much more powerful than they were in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, exactly.
With that, people, I like to say bye. Thank you so much. James, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to putting this up. Take care.